Hey, good morning, juniors. Happy Friday. So I wanted to drop a quick video and talk to you about two things. First one being this JSTOR thing that I was talking about in that email that I was ranting and raving about. I wanted to show you just a little bit of that. And the second thing is I want to show you a couple examples of some well-written lit reviews from our drafts. Again, just a few that I found that I thought were doing good things, and I wanted to share that with other people so that you could kind of try to emulate that if you weren't already. So first of all, this is not the homepage of JSTOR. This is JSTOR JSTOR, but this is the COVID-19 kind of special edition. Basically, they made a whole bunch of their stuff free, which is an enormous deal. I can't stress that enough. And I know it's kind of nerdy, but the idea is it's like a library essentially that is a digital library that is restricted to college students. And not even all colleges have this. You got to pay tens of thousands of dollars just to get into the website normally. But on here is a huge repository of journal articles, book chapters, primary documents such as newspapers, anything and everything that you can possibly think of. You will find a bunch of it, way more than you actually need, but it will give you some pretty interesting things to look at. So it's worth putting in your topic and kind of skimming through. I'll show you some examples. And by the way, because this isn't the normal website, I'm going to put this special link into the agenda for today. So please take a look at that and spend some time kind of getting to know JSTOR. I don't know how long it'll be around, but any research that you have to do, this is the most credible place that you could possibly find it. This and other types of repositories like this. But this is so much more credible and so much more beneficial from a research standpoint because it's coming from actual experts who have done primary research in a real world situation, like I'm trying to kind of model for you. And at the same time, it's because it's going through the peer review process. We know that other experts have looked at it and said, "Yep, this is allowed to go into the academic conversation," and that's a huge step. I can't stress enough that these are super beneficial. So I put in a couple samples here just to kind of show you um, what this is capable of. So we talked about geese migration the other day in class. So let's bring up this and I'll show you kind of what you'll see. So it tells me that there are at least 641 free results. I think when I put this in the regular JSTOR, it was something like 10,000, but still 641 is quite hefty and as much as you'll ever need. But look at how specific some of these research articles are about. Late summer movements by giant Canada geese in relation to a September hunting season, right? Very, very specific. Evaluation of the effects of September hunting seasons on Canadian geese in Nebraska. The paradox of extreme high altitude migration and bar-headed geese, Anser indicus, whatever that is. This one's just called duck goose, right? So like some of these are worth, scrolling through on whatever your topic is. Two unusual flights of Canada geese noted in Massachusetts during the fall of 1910. Think about that kind of research, that level of passion that you have to have to write that journal article. But that being said, like it's going to be really good stuff. You can see over here on the right whichever ones you like. You can open up just by clicking on here. You can download the PDF. You can even cite the item. So it'll give you an option to cite the item in whatever citation style you're looking at, MLA, APA, Chicago, anything at all. So this is a helpful thing. But you can also create an account and save it so that, if you don't know if you want it yet, but you also don't want to lose it, that's a helpful thing to look at. So let's go into that. This one right here, Paradoxical Extreme. And all I did was click on the title there. You'll see that it comes up with the same options. I can save it, I can share it, download the PDF. If you've never read one of these sorts of things, you'll see at the beginning there's something called an abstract, and that's simply like a summary. So you can read just over the abstract of these things, and usually it'll say abstract. This one doesn't, or there it is right there. But the abstract is a summary that you can kind of skim through. You don't have to read the whole thing because these are, again, this is 8 pages of pretty dense material. It would be challenging to read through it unless you were seriously interested in geese migration. Probably challenging to read through even then. That being said, if you find one that you're like, okay, this pretty much relates to what I'm trying to say, then you can skim those and find some expert testimony or some expert statistics that you can put into your research proposal. You can put into your lit review, and they're powerful statements. They do a lot of work for you from a rhetorical standpoint. Something else you can do, let me back up one. Something else you can do is you can narrow down the things with these filters over here. So you can see if you only want journals or book chapters, research reports, if you want to look through primary source documents and primary source books. If you want to limit the publication date, so you only want to look at the things that have been around, recently, this would be a way to do that. You can see here some publication dates. This is from 2010, 2012. So if you're worried that maybe this isn't the most recent thing, then you can limit that over here. You could theoretically limit this a little bit more by subject. All right, let me go back and do a different one. I did one on the census here a second ago just to see what I would get because that is an interest of mine. So if I do 1920 census, search JSTOR, here's a real good example of why you might want to use a date filter, right? So same thing over here. This one shows me 3700. And you can see some of these are, again, very dense, very heavy on the scientific side of things. They're going to be filled with a lot of graphs and that sort of thing. You can see here the journal is 2600 options, book chapters, research reports, documents, serials, and books. But on this publication date, what I was showing you earlier, you can see some of these are from 1916, meaning they're primary documents. They've been around for a while, 1922. So let's go into 20 census in relation to its vital statistics. You're going to see that this looks completely different. This looks like a genuine copy of this document that was published in 1916 because it's a scanned copy of it. Talk about some really cool stuff that you could do with that and kind of look at how things have changed over the course of time between something that was published in 1916 versus something that was published, 100 years later. So very cool stuff. I can't recommend enough. Go in there, see what you can find. I would even argue that you should consider taking some of your weaker sources, especially things like Wikipedia, maybe some non-credible websites, and finding similar things in JSTOR because that's going to give you a much stronger credibility with whatever it is you're talking about. It doesn't really matter what you're talking about. It'll help. All right, so that's JSTOR. I'll put the link in the agenda for you. The other thing I wanted to show you, and I've gotten permission from these two people. This is Justin's lit review, and these are the original drafts, so I haven't changed anything. I've taken all my comments, and but with both of these and with everybody's, there's some issues that still need to be resolved between the first draft and the final draft. But these are some things that I appreciated, and I think that lots of you could do some work with and do some emulation for. All right, so let's read just the first little bit, just down to like here. All right, so it says parasocial relationships are something virtually everyone experiences in their lives but may not be aware of or what's happening or why. They are defined as, and then it goes into quotes, one-sided relationships where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time, and the other party, the persona, is completely unaware of the other's existence. Parasocial relationships are the most common with celebrities, organizations such as sports teams, or television stars. Now, one quick note here, this is exactly where you would want to have some sort of citation to make sure that we know where that's coming from. Due to its insignificance or invisibility, it's not a very explored topic, but it can affect us in ways that develop us as people or can develop complexes. All right, so this is doing a really good job of just like getting started on the conversation, getting me assuming that I have, at least a level of education to know what a relationship is. It's not starting me off like way too early. It's starting me right where I need to be. So it's saying that it's very common. It happens to almost everybody. And it's defined as this. So in the second sentence, there's a definition of it. And by the end of that second sentence, I know what parasocial relationships are. Paranormal relationships, something totally different. And so again, within two sentences, I know what this thing is defined as, and it's kind of always moving forward. This third sentence, due to its insignificance or invisibility, it's not a very explored topic. Already, Justin's doing a good job of saying there's still some things to be done. There's still some things to research. I don't have all the answers yet. That's exactly what a literature review should be doing. All right. And this does a good job all the way through, kind of walking me through, again, like that old metaphor I used to use, holding my hand all the way through the process. All right, I don't need to know the very basics. I can kind of get started on that, but it needs to be at a reasonable basic place that I can kind of get started on without being lost. And Justin's doing a good job of like walking me through that very carefully, right? All right, the other one I wanted to show you is one from Autumn. And this is again doing a very good job and a pretty strong job of making sure that everything's sourced and cited correctly. All right, so we're going to read the first paragraph right here. Social media is one of the most present forces in the lives of modern American teenagers. According to the Pew Research Center, this is called a signal phrase. You should all be doing something like this, or you should be doing something like the in-text citation, the parenthetical citations. So a mix of those are good for kind of balance. But according to the Pew Research Center, 95% of children ages 13 to 17 have access to a smartphone. The same studies report that 89% of teenagers say they are online several times a day. 45% of those describe their use as almost constant. 90% of teenagers spend this time on social network platforms, with 71% using more than one. Photo, video sharing sites and messaging sites are the most prevalent among teenagers, with the top 3 social media platforms being YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat. And then behind all those, of course, things I skipped, but the idea of like giving us just a little bit more information about each of those. This is doing a fantastic job of getting things started, okay? You don't need to explain what social media is. You don't need to tell me when it was invented. You don't need to tell me like it's everywhere, because it's like always, it's something that I already sort of know. So within the first sentence, we're kind of past all of that stuff, and then we get to the data, we get to the research. And I can't stress this enough, that the main problem I found in just about everybody's was that you were not citing your sources correctly, or you were making it far too opinion-based, all right? And this is not the place for either of those things. The literature review is very clearly a review of the literature that has already happened, okay? So this is not the time to be answering all your questions. You should end the literature review with some level of, with some gap in the research that you still have to do, that your research questions and your eventual research will do. But walking me through the existing research is exactly what I need. Saying what's only relevant according to, leading me closer to understanding your research questions is exactly what I need. And making it super clear when it's your words versus somebody else's. All right, and that's the big thing. I can understand that because the statistics never end in the rest of this paragraph, that all of this information is coming from the Pew Research Center. If you come down to this next paragraph and you change what's going on, a survey by the University of Pittsburgh, then if I ever needed to come back to the Pew Research stuff, then I'm going to put that down here too. I'm going to make sure that it's super clear when it's not my voice talking. And my voice should be, in most cases, pretty unavailable while I'm reading this. It should be pretty invisible is maybe a better word. All right. So yeah, 2 really good examples of what's working in those lit reviews, and what I think that a lot of people should continue to try to emulate and try to do for themselves. So again, I'll be doing a live broadcast on Microsoft Teams at noon today, so please stop by there. I can't encourage that enough. If you'd like me to look at your stuff, I will be going over everybody's piece by piece, so it'll probably be a little bit of time while I'm working with one person, but other people hearing that is going to be beneficial for you as well. So even if you're kind of waiting and listening to my criticism of somebody else's, then hearing that might help you. So but let me know if at any point if you need help. I'll be logging off and checking out of all school-related activities at 4 p.m. on Friday. So if you email me at 4:01, you will not get a response. And I hope that you don't email me at 4:01. You should also be shutting off all your school and enjoying your spring break. So if I don't hear from you again before then, be safe, have a great time, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you in a week or so. Take care. Bye.